feel like Kobe in the fourth quarter.
This is the Day More NBA podcast brought to you by Prize Picks, coming in Monday morning. It's October 6th, our first episode since the Wolves preseason opener against the Denver Nuggets on Saturday night. And for today's episode, I'm going to be joined by Kyle Theige, and we are going to focus this episode on takeaways from that preseason opener, which I thought was actually pretty interesting for a preseason game. We each put a list of takeaways together, and I'm sure we'll find a way to touch on really every player who played in that game, which is kind of the point of these preseason pods. We're just looking for more ways to be able to talk about these players and hopefully not get too connected to what happens in one preseason game. So we will do that with Kyle coming up next. But before I bring Kyle in, I want to remind you that we are brought to you by Falling Knife Brewing Company here in Northeast Minneapolis. And I was at Falling Knife this weekend. It was in the afternoon before the Wolves preseason game. Falling Knife was celebrating 6 years in business with their anniversary party this weekend. And, being at that anniversary party got me excited for Wolves Fest, which I think this will be our third or fourth year doing over at Falling Knife. Wolves Fest is October 18th from 3 to 9 p.m. And amongst many festivities that Falling Knife is putting on for that day, Britt, Kyle, and I will be doing an outdoor live show at 5 p.m. So we would love it if you put that on your calendar, October 18th, 3 to 9 p.m. They're also releasing our pod-themed beer second apron that day. We're really looking forward to it. Again, October 18th, 3 to 9 p.m. at Falling Knife Brewing Company. All right. Preseason opener takeaways with Kyle Theige coming up next. Let's go. All right, we are now joined by Kyle Theige on a Monday morning, and we are going to run through some takeaways from the Wolves preseason opener in this episode. But I want to start by noting that Kyle will be joining me twice a week this season. Kyle and I will continue to do the Friday shows weekly that we have for many seasons, but now in addition, there will be an early in the week appearance. Once the season rolls around, generally speaking, the schedule is going to look like Jace on Mondays, Kyle on Tuesdays, Chris on Wednesdays, Britt on Thursdays, and then Kyle again on Fridays. Obviously, that moves a little bit as people's schedules work or don't work. But that's what we're aiming for. And Kyle, I know you wanted to hit on this because 2 shows now over with me means you won't be doing flagrant howls with our friends over at Score North this season. But we've been meaning to share that. And then every time we've recorded an episode, we'll be like, oh, we forgot to say that this is what's happening. So this is what's happening.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. You've continued to give me more and more opportunities. And I think, as we've always said, as the team gets better, there's probably 5 days of content a week that we could do shows. So I think some weeks, if there's 1 or 2 games, I don't know if you're going to have me on a second time. But yeah, shout out to everyone, Phil and everyone at Score North. It was a good couple of years, and I'm sure I'll stop by later this summer or this fall for a preview. But I'm just really excited what we're building here, and I'm really excited for another season. And it kind of did start off Saturday night, albeit for some people they couldn't find the game or it was blacked out or whatever. But to watch the Wolves Nuggets part, 71 in an old San Diego gym, and I thought there were some really truly interesting both sides of the coin takeaways from that. So happy Monday. Let's get after it.
Awesome. Yeah. And yeah, last thing on Kyle is it's really helpful for me to, and this week's a perfect example of why having Kyle be able to do 2 episodes. Like Jace does Mondays with me 95% of the time. This Monday couldn't do it, Yeah. So then Kyle can come in and fill that in. And Britt's gone this week. He's out of town taking a vacation before the season. So Kyle able to, fill in for that because Jason, Chris, and Britt, they all have lives and, covering this team and traveling and all those sort of things. So to be able to do,
and I don't have a life, so that's perfect.
Yeah. That's not where I was going, but yes, yes, I'm taking away more of your life to talk more about the Timberwolves. All right, let's jump into takeaways. You want to give me? It doesn't need to be in order or anything, but a big takeaway from the Wolves preseason opener.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing we need to say is that Timberwolves Nuggets Saturday night in San Diego, Minnesota did not roll out Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, or Mike Conley. So that's a big caveat to everything we're going to talk about. But So Rob Dillingham gets the spot start in a preseason game. And just my first kind of general takeaway was Rob Dillingham looks far improved in year 2 than he did in year 1. And there's some low hanging fruit there because you expect a player in year 2 to kind of take a leap. I know last season wasn't a gap year for the Timberwolves organization, but for all intents and purposes, it kind of was for Rob Dillingham. It was almost like a red shirt year that you kind of see in college. Get him bigger, get him stronger, get him to buy in on defense, something that Finch brings up every time you mention Rob's name. And Rob has been pretty open, like, I never really played defense like that at Donda Academy. So I think for him to get that start, I thought he tried on defense. They hunted him a little bit, but I think his playmaking, there was that one kind of perfect example of what they're trying to do where they get the rebound, he gets the ball in transition, perfect, just fresh, crisp pass to Joan Beringer, who's running in transition for 2 easy points. So this is what we said in Vegas, right? We said, hey, I think Rob just kind of looks like a better player than he did a summer ago in the desert. So I was impressed, albeit one preseason game. We'll do that caveat now. Preseason. I was impressed by how he looked in game 1, year 2 compared to last year.
So I thought it looked like last year, and I don't mean that like in a negative way. I guess I don't. What was the extra thing? Like it to me, what I wrote down was like fine-tuned, same stuff I saw, a season ago. Obviously, it's in a bigger role. I think he was making shot, giving more opportunity to be a shot maker, and hitting the shots. I thought the engagement on defense remained. I thought it was interesting. Like they didn't have Jaden McDaniels guard Jamal Murray in this game, as has happened the 50 times they've played him in the last 3 years. They were like, Rob, when you're out there, you're guarding Jamal Murray. Or when Bones came in too, it was the same thing. They kept Jaden off ball a little bit. So I think he was challenged more, bigger opportunity, bigger opportunity offensively, bigger opportunity defensively. And I don't think he didn't do anything with it, but I didn't watch him and be like, oh, this is Charmander to Charmeleon. You know what I mean? Like I didn't feel like the full evolution. You know what I'm saying? Like yep. I didn't see a new Rob Dillingham. I saw the same Rob Dillingham with more opportunity and that he did something with that opportunity.
He was only 3 for 10 from the field. His shot just kind of still looks like it's a little too much feet and a little flat. I guess we've watched Rob enough now, and mainly the biggest dose of Rob Dillingham you and I have is watching him up close and personal in Summer League. Mm-hmm. I just thought he was a little quicker, like just on everything, right? Sure. Like on a rotation, like running a pick and roll and getting rid of the ball early. Like I think he was the one who assisted Beringer on that one where he caught it in the middle, took one Giannis step for that and one over Tim Hardaway Jr. So I just thought everything was a little quicker. But again, I think with Rob, going back to that kind of red shirt philosophy, you and I said, if this is what Rob Dillingham looked like in the this summer, last year, we would have felt really good, but he didn't. Right. And I think, again, like maybe you're closer on the margins here if he did just kind of look the same as last year with a little fine tuning. But I guess that's
I have it in the green. Like I have green and red stuff on my thing. Like this is like good, like it wasn't. I thought Rob Dillingham was one of the absolutely encouraging pieces from the game. It wasn't not trying to take away from it.
It looked like he played a game that Chris Finch asked him to play. Try on defense. I mean, he did get hunted.
I like that.
Multiple possessions by Jamal Murray, and that's just going to be a thing. And they didn't draft him to be Jalen Clark. They drafted him because he gives you, and Finch said this in last week at practice, like he gives you something that they just don't really have, right? Like that level of playmaker, that level of kind of shot creation. So it was one preseason game. It was like October 3rd. We can probably keep it moving, but it would have been worse, right? Like you would have started this podcast if he would have come out and looked kind of like he was thrown into the deep end and couldn't swim. So I just thought it was a nice little, okay, he's building off that. He had an opportunity. He was playing with guys that, we don't normally see him play with. He did also play like an extended period in the fourth quarter, which I thought was kind of interesting, with guys who like might not be on the roster. I don't know what you thought about that. Maybe that was just giving him more minutes and reps, but overall, I thought it was, like you said, more green than red. And I think with him specifically and the point guard position, which is something I'm super concerned about, that's like a good building block, right? Like the Chris Finch, let's stack on top of that. So game 1 preseason, good job, Rob.
I have a Bones one.
Yeah,
that I want to like mix in here. Just talking about the point guard position, but I think I rewatched the game this morning, and I don't think I realized this at the time on Saturday because I thought like maybe the starters would come back into the game in the second quarter or start the second half or something like that, but they didn't. And the guys who started the game were Gobert, Reid, McDaniels, DiVincenzo, and Dillingham. And the four main guys, Gobert, Reid, McDaniels, and DiVincenzo, they played all 12 minutes of the first quarter, and Dillingham and Bones split that quarter in half. And again, didn't think about it at the time, but in my head, that seems like you're mapping something as a coach. You're trying to aim at something, and this is very easily could be over analysis 8 minutes into a podcast about the preseason opener. But does it kind of make sense that might be what the second unit looks like the start of second quarters and fourth quarters, right? Gobert, Reid, McDaniels, DiVincenzo, and Dillingham. So Julius and Ant have kind of played like the whole first quarter, played kind of like the whole third quarter. Rudy, maybe you subbed out like 6 minutes. Rudy and Jaden, you kind of subbed out midway through the first or third quarter, and they come back in to start the second quarter. I mean, they did this a lot last year. It was always like Reid, DiVincenzo, Alexander Walker with Gobert. And then they were trying to kind of figure out, like, sometimes it'd be Conley, sometimes it'd be, they put another wing in there and they'd, slide DiVincenzo or Alexander Walker down. But I think that could be the group that we see play a lot in that bridge time from the first quarter to second, or the start of the second quarter there. And that was an extremely, extremely important period of time, very much a winning time for the Wolves a season ago, because they killed in the minutes when Reid, DiVincenzo, and Alexander Walker were all on the floor together. So I wonder if that is how this quote unquote second unit gets kind of like reapproximated, is with this starting group that played in this game without, again, Edwards, Randle, and Conley, who didn't play in it. And to that end, if it is, or regardless, that's kind of when Dillingham is going to be playing, right? That is probably his window of time, whether it's with those other four guys, of being that sort of second unit, the second unit primary playmaker once Anthony Edwards is off the floor. I think they'll pair him with Gobert. I think that's something that makes sense for the defensive reasons. I also think Rob can probably help Gobert a good amount offensively. I think that's a good pairing on both sides of the ball. So I just had that written down, that it was interesting that in a preseason game, they played their four starters all 12 minutes in that first quarter and split the time between Dillingham and Bones, I would guess, to get, a look at what Bones looks like with that foursome and what Dillingham looks like with that foursome. And I thought largely they both did similar sort of things in those times and played throughout the game. And I think it's just because they're really similar players. Bones is 25 and is kind of on his journeyman journey right now. And Dillingham is a really intriguing year two prospect, as Bones was, 4 or 5 years ago when he was in Denver. I think it makes for an interesting pair. And I was thinking at Media Day, when we were interviewing Bones, about how at the end of last season, it was just being in the locker room. It was easy to tell that like Dillingham and Bones had gotten close, and Bones had kind of become a friend and mentor to Dillingham. I asked him about that, and then we can talk a little. I want to play this from Media Day, and then we can talk a little bit more about Bones specifically.
And he kind of reminds me of myself a lot. Just coming into the league, obviously I played, my rookie year. He didn't play, but I kind of like try to give him pointers of like me not playing the last like year and a half, him not playing his rookie season. I'm like, bro, everything is patience, bro. Like, every day, try to get 1% better. If you plan or not, come in here with a smile on your face and just try to, be a good person to yourself first, and then good person to others, and everything else will take care of itself. But, like I said, he kind of reminds me of myself. Obviously both shifty. We're both like slim frame, but both have heart, and it's like a little brother to me, man. Like, yeah, he really is like a little brother to me. I could tell when I first got here, he was a little like frigidy, and like he just wanted it back. He wanted to play, and that's any hooper. But I just kind of like was getting his ear every day, showing him my work ethic of not playing. I feel like that has helped him be more mature, going into the second year. So, I wish the best for Rob for sure. But just being here with him, like I said, it's like a little brother to me. And I wish the best for him too.
So, those guys are kind of like sharing a role. And I think, you could share a role while Rob gets more minutes. I don't think anybody is anticipating that Bones is entering the season higher in the point guard pecking order than Rob is, but it's kind of interesting. Like they're both in that same QB room together. It's a important position for this team. And I like the idea of those two guys working together. I like Dillingham having a Bones Hyland, in the locker room next to him, and then one more seat away is Mike Conley there too. This is I don't know. I hadn't really thought about Bones as being like a really good piece to have for Rob, in the way that maybe Joe Ingles is a really good piece to have for Rudy Gobert. This, I don't know, can kind of speak the same language and on the same ground. And that's, I don't know, makes more sense to me after watching that game on Saturday.
So there's a lot to unpack there, but I think for starters, literally for the starters, when they don't play Ant and they don't play Julius and they don't play Mike, obviously with Mike, just an older player, you're like, okay, I get it. Preseason, not that important. I actually found it odd, like when PR tweeted out who was not playing, like, okay, Ant and Julius, like they're in shape. Like, why would you not play them, I guess, to protect them? And maybe the 3D chess galaxy brain was, we just want to start, to your point, with what our second unit's going to look like, just to get them a whole runway of, I knew, by the way, you watch too much basketball to not have picked up on this. When there was 1 minute and 30 seconds left in the first quarter and all five of those guys were still out there, that's when I knew they weren't coming back, because it's like Finch is going to play them 12 straight minutes and that was it. Right. I do find the Bones Hyland, Rob Dillingham thing to be really cool, because Bones Hyland, not just what he said at media day, but when you talk to some of his teammates or people in the front office, it seems like a kid who has really been through a lot and has matured. Like he kind of got run out of Denver, or maybe he ran himself out. Then he ends up with the Clippers. He gets to play with a lot of really talented veterans, right? Like in Kawhi and James Harden and all those guys. And now he finds himself in Minnesota. He did say at media day that, going overseas to Europe was on the table. So that's kind of when your career is at a fork in the road. But I think what's fascinating about him and Rob is kind of like what I asked Mike about last week, where clearly Rob Dillingham is the point guard on this team that has the most equity built in, or like the draft capital and all that stuff. Mike Conley is the most trusted. He's the veteran. He's going to start probably this regular season. And then you have this kind of third option in Bones Hyland, who's on a minimum, just happy to be here. And then you see him play. And to your point of like, I don't think Bones Hyland is going to like leapfrog Rob Dillingham in the depth chart. I'm with you today. But like, what if like this you know what I mean? Like, what if this keeps, I thought Bones Hyland was awesome. And that's why, again, I want to say preseason. But I thought Bones Hyland looked awesome. He had a command for running the offense. It was, how many times have you watched Bones Hyland play in Minnesota? Not very often. I just thought he was more of like, as he said, kind of like a hooper. But I thought he did a really good job of also keeping guys engaged and trying to like run some sets with other guys, trying to get the bigs involved. He did lead the team in scoring. But he had a lot of opportunities. So I just think that's going to be fascinating, because I don't know if there's a perfect like Vikings quarterback room analogy, but Rob needs to play. But what if Bones is like just better right now? Like, is Bones Hyland going to randomly be one of those guys that gets the 10th spot on a cold winter night in January?
I wouldn't go that far, but I think we can still like compliment and acknowledge him by saying, I feel like the third point guard spot's like cool, Yeah,
like
that's
fair. That's fair.
Like if you gotta get there, you can approach it with the confidence that you had a couple years ago when you had Jordan McLaughlin or something like that. J-Mac was a really good and effective third point guard for that team, but that's all he ever was, And I think this team misses that in ways, or could use that or has missed that since McLaughlin left, and could use it. I do think this team needs a different type of point guard than that team did before. I think Jordan McLaughlin really fit that team when Karl Anthony Towns was the 5, and it was more of a team that flew around and ran the floor a little bit more. Jordan McLaughlin didn't make as much sense once this became a Rudy Gobert team, and it was a 5 and 4, and they weren't a team that ran and moved in that sort of way. I think a Rudy Gobert at the 5 team needs their point guard actually to be more of like a break you down and get into the lane type of point guard, like Rob Dillingham and Bones Hyland are. So I think like archetype of point guard, Bones Hyland's a good fit on this team to be the third point guard. And I don't think that means he's in any way infringing on Rob Dillingham territory. I don't think he can earn the Rob Dillingham spot. I think Rob Dillingham would need to get hurt or lose it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I'm definitely not campaigning for him to take the Rob Dillingham spot. I'm just, you said the quarterback analogy room. It's like, what happens if 2 months in practice, all that stuff, footage, film, all that stuff, the QB3 just is better than the QB2, and everyone in the locker room knows it. So I think that's, Britt kind of said it best last week that if this is the most dramatic thing this team has to deal with, that's probably a good thing, but it is something. Like, who is going to get those backup minutes? I had in my notes, maybe it's because he led the team in scoring, but I still think Rob Dillingham is like the backup point guard and learning under Mike, that maybe Bones will be used in kind of any night in the season where Ant doesn't play. Like, he gives you a little more, because he does just give you juice. Like, there's one thing that Bones right now, as good as Rob can be offensively, he is 20 and he's still kind of picking things up. Bones Hyland is a professional bucket getter. So like, if you just need a night where guys just don't have it and you got to call his number, I think that would be a role he'd be really suited for. But I think you hit the nail on the head, and I hadn't thought about this. At least now, like, you have options, because 2 weeks ago, like before Malcolm Brogdon signed with the Knicks, like, who is going to be that third option? I think it's solidified now that between Mike, Rob, Bones, and then the playmaking of TJ and Ant and Julius and Dante, like, they have plenty of options to fill that quarterback room and to kind of get things going. So good. That was a good way to kind of go from Rob to Bones. I thought Bones really showed out because I came into that thinking he was just going to be truly a towel waver.
This episode is brought to you by Treasure Island Resort and Casino. And every Sunday at Treasure Island, the Parlay Lounge is the spot to watch Vikings games. There's always prize giveaways and drink specials in the Parlay Lounge during Vikings games. They had a whole Bloody Mary spread set up there this past weekend for the early game in London. Of course, there is no Vikings game this weekend, though. It is the Vikings bye week, so it will be a Green Bay Packers watch party in the Parlay Lounge this weekend. Same deal for you Packer fans, prize giveaways and drinks specials going on. Last season when we did live shows there, we had a blast. The watch parties, it's a really good setup for their bunch of screens and everything you could need for watching a game. And I think you will enjoy yourself at one of these watch parties, whether it's for the Vikings or for the Packers this weekend. Make Treasure Island your home turf for every Vikings game this season, and visit TICasino.com for more information. Today's show is also brought to you by Prize Picks, and it's Monday, which means there is Monday Night Football this evening. And if you are looking for a way to play the game this evening, head over to Prize Picks. I was looking this morning, and there were 3 picks I liked. Isaiah Pacheco to have more than 6.5 fantasy points, Tyquan Thornton to have more than 4 fantasy points, and Trevor Lawrence to have at least 1 passing touchdown. I think if you do all 3 of those and did a $20 ticket, that will pay $75 if all 3 hits. Obviously, you can play for as little as $5. There's always something going on over at Prize Picks. As a reminder, to put together a Prize Picks lineup, all you need to do is put 2 or more picks in your lineup to win. If you don't yet have a Prize Picks account, all you have to do is put in the promo code DANE when you sign up, and you will receive $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com or the Prize Picks app using promo code DANE when you create your account. I think I can relate this over of the Ant not playing thing. I wrote down one of my main takeaways was aggressive Naz Reid early. He like the rest of the starters didn't play after the first quarter. But so when I watched the game on Saturday night, it didn't really log to me that Naz looked that great, right? Because then I watched 3 more quarters and turned it off and didn't think about it again. But rewatching, I was like, oh man, yeah, Naz was really he was really aggressive early. he was looking to score right away. He like got a DHO or something where he tried to get downhill on the very first possession, was presenting himself for some threes. And the offense, like to your Ant point, in an Ant game out situation, who repurposes, offense? Where are further offensive spark plugs coming from? And Naz is not usually the person asked to do that, or hasn't been before.
Mhm.
He's just kind of been like a fill-in. He's never, it's always kind of like bugged me that there hasn't been like one game where there's just like, yep, whole offense is going through Naz. Like, how has that not happened anytime in the last 3 years due to injuries or whatever? I'm not saying it's like a great idea, but it'd be an interesting like data point of Naz shot 30 shots in this game. Everything was going through Naz. He obviously didn't do that in this game either, but I think Naz is older now, man. He's at this vet stage, and I think it's reasonable to say situationally you can give him more bandwidth. And I don't think this team, when healthy, ever needs to give him more than the awesome sixth man bandwidth that he is. Plays 30 minutes, does all the Naz Reid things. But there's probably going to be a time over the course of this season where Anthony Edwards and or Julius Randle are out of the game. And on paper, that makes your team look really like deficient on offense. If you were to have even just one of them not playing. And I just noted down in this game of like, I think it'll be a lot of Naz in those games, and really like in a fed Naz, like Finch wanting it to be Naz, not just Naz finding his way to take 9 threes. And I'm not sure this is anything or ever even proves to be relevant, but I have a little more like faith in the idea that the Wolves could win some games or play some competent offense when Julius Randle is hurt this season. And historically, Julius misses time. He's fully healthy right now and great, but like Julius is 30, turning 31, is like, he's probably not going to play 78 games this season, and yeah, again, hadn't thought that much about Naz in that way, but he was aggressive early in this game, and it gave me some confidence and belief in the idea that he could do that if given that opportunity sometime during the regular season.
I feel like you're saying that you thought that early start was like intentional, and I agree.
Yeah.
Like they're like, hey, we're no Ant, no Julius tonight, no Mike. Like we're gonna. And I was thinking while watching it, like I wonder if that was discussed in May when they did contract extensions. You know what I mean? Because when Naz did his media day stuff, he mentioned, and he's pretty reserved guy. He doesn't say anything too, spicy, but he was like, I know that I would start for basically 29 other teams, or like for most of the team, and that's him being like, kind of giving you the tea leaves of I re-signed here, I got the bag, I got 100 million, but I know that role wise, I would have a bigger role in a opportunity to grow my brand in another market because they would just need more of me. And this organization doesn't. So I think it's a really good point, because I don't think this organization is not ever going to be like a DNP rest type organization. But if Ant rolls an ankle or if Julius is out, I think you're starting to get like, okay, that's probably the third option, because after those two, it's like, oh, do we lean more into Jaden, who I thought, I don't have a takeaway, but I thought early in that game, he also looked intentional running pick and roll with Rudy, or just having, some cuts to the basket.
Step back.
Yeah. Oh nice. Boy. No, I'm not doing it. The Denver broadcast was tough. But yeah, that's probably your third offensive weapon in the pecking order. We thought, hey, maybe Terrence Shannon Jr., and I want to talk about him in a sec, or maybe Dante. I think the one that has the highest floor in terms of third offensive weapon, the highest floor, the guy that you can just bank on, is Naz Reid. And yeah, in those first 10 to 12 minutes on Saturday night, he looked awesome.
I think bankability is the word with Naz, because as good as he's been over the last 2-3 seasons, there's like weirdly not fully a bankability to him. He is a little bit of there's a variance to his. I mean, look at the Thunder series. Naz didn't play well in that, and was he was up and down throughout the playoffs. And I would say, like, I don't know. I remember asking Finch a bunch during the beginning of this time last season of Naz just won Sixth Man of the Year. Like, what's next? Like, what do you want to do? And Finch said multiple times, is like, do it again. I want to see you do it again.
Yeah.
And that's fair. That was like, the role was the same, and he tried to do it again. in a different lineup context behind Julius Randle this time instead of Karl Anthony Towns. I wonder now, with his salary now doubled from what it was the 2 previous seasons when he was 6th man of the year, if it isn't reasonable to just be like, yeah, there's got to be, we're looking for ways for him to be a little bit more than just do it again. I think there's ways for him to do more than be the 6th man he was the last couple of seasons without it being like this fundamental shift in who plays or how the offense runs and stuff like that. But that when opportunities are there, Naz gets more of them. And when opportunities are there, Naz is more consistent in that role, productive, efficient, offensively, defensively. Like, I do expect Naz Reid to be better this year. And I think Chris Finch should expect Naz Reid to be better this year. And frankly, like, if it is exactly like last season, that's a little bit of a disappointment given the 5-year, $125 million contract he had. So maybe it's part of this is just me like having an eye on that of like, what is this next iteration of Naz Reid now that he's on a $100 million contract and he's not skipping through these cheaper, lower, shorter term deals? I think it's about taking advantage of opportunity when it presents itself. And I know it's a preseason game, but yeah, it kind of screamed. The first quarter kind of screamed that to me about Naz, which I think is encouraging. Let's keep rolling through. Give me something else.
So we talked about Terrence Shannon Jr. a little bit. I have an analogy that I have to bring up, but I wanted to ask you first. What did you think of his performance against the Nuggets?
TJ?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think he is like to use the Naz thing of like the do it again, you know, be the guy in transition again, be someone who we feel like we can rely on, you know, defensively, like leave your imprint on the game. And if you show that you can do that again, we'll give you more responsibility and maybe, you know, and more playing time. So I think that's where TJ kind of is in his progression. And that's, it was nothing like crazy to me because there was nothing new that I saw from TJ in that game. It's what I expect from him. I think it feels very bankable that he's going to be that guy. He's physically going to be a force. I mean, I'm saying this as somebody that knows that Terrence Shannon Jr. is an absolute force in transition and physical and stuff like that. So different people parachuting in to, you know, catch a Wolves preseason game or even, you know, one of their games at the beginning of the season is going to kind of be like whoa, Terrence Shannon Jr., even if he's doing the same stuff he was doing at the end of last year. I feel like the same stuff as the end of last season is super bankable from Terrence Shannon Jr. And we saw the first example of that. Is that fair?
Yeah, he looked bored, and I think that's the biggest compliment I can give. Like he was drafted as an older rookie. He is kind of an older second-year player, but he just looked like, I'm over this in the nicest way possible. And like, I'm ready for regular season minutes. I'm ready for like real competition. But I think he did almost everything you would want from him to kind of level up. I think in terms of stock prices on this roster, he might be the one that is just going so crazy up that you're trying to find ways to maybe like short that. But he had one possession. I mean, he could get into the paint whenever he wanted. And the Denver broadcast even acknowledged that. It's like, hey, if he gets the ball and he just wants to get into the paint to either get a floater, to get fouled, he did lead the team with 8 free throw attempts, which is back to bankability. To me, like, that's the number one thing. Yes, he can get out in transition, all those things, but he, you know, we always say he was 4th in college free throw rate. Like, he is awesome at that. And getting free throws to me is just one of the low hanging fruits in addition to transition of how this team can get easier points. But yeah, he drove towards the rim, kind of whipped one to Joe Ingles, who then found Rob Dillingham in the slot for an open 3. And it's like, okay, some playmaking from him. He finished with 11 points, 4 assists, 4 rebounds. But the analogy for me for him, because you still kind of saw it, there was another opportunity where there was like a whole scrum in the paint and Rob's on the ground. And then he finds Jalen, who finds Joan, or whatever, who finds Joe, who finds TJ in the corner. And the closest person to him is Alan Horton. And he didn't hit the 3. And it reminds me of the Powerball. And I think that's going to be like how I look at TJ this season is, in order to win the Mega Million, like Terrence Shannon Jr., and we said this in his rookie season in Vegas, he has to hit spot up 3s. He can do all the other stuff. But to me, it's like when you get Ant and Julius out there with Rudy and Jaden, all these big guys, like, I don't know if he's going to be able to attack the rim as much. Maybe he uses that to create and get other guys involved and get other guys spot up shots. But for Terrence, like his power ball, the thing that's going to pay him a Naz Reid extension down the road is if he can also just spot up, because when he catches the ball, if you watch his feet, he catches the ball, he immediately wants to go downhill every time.
Yep.
And I think with real NBA guys out there, like the starters, I just don't know if that's always going to be a thing. Again, this is such a minor criticism, but it's
no, but this is just a way to talk about the players. This isn't just like a take based on
we've been talking about it for 18 months.
minutes he played. Yeah. This is the Terrence Shannon Jr. conversation. I could twist that even more positive, because I think like there's a world where maybe TJ doesn't hit his threes at like the clip that you want.
You know, you can make $250,000 on that cheap investment, but you're not going to become a millionaire because I think you need him to hit it.
Well, yes, but I would offer a middle ground, and I'd reference Kyle Anderson. He's gonna shoot it better than Kyle Anderson, obviously, right? But Kyle Anderson like found a way through to be effective on this team, having an awful 3-point shooting season, being absolutely disregarded in the corner that year. But how did Kyle Anderson still prove to benefit this team? He was a playmaker, like a semi-playmaker on offense, and he guarded on defense. Like if Terrence Shannon Jr. can play make on offense, which I think he can. That secondary stuff you're talking about there, and he's all like, "Oh, I did that back in college, but here on this team, it's my job to be a role player." That's part of his role, and he does it. Like I think he is he is a good read the floor, draw into, kick defender. Like I don't know, you can't call that playmaking in the same way that Ant is playmaking, but it is making a play, right? You're opening up your teammate. I think he absolutely can do that on offense, and I think that buoys some of that 3-point shooting, even if it's December 12th and we're like, ooh, TJ's at 31% from 3. I don't think that kills him if there's playmaking and there's defense on the other side of the floor. I think he has. That's why I'm saying he's like bankable. I don't know how he'll hit all of these things, but like, even if he loses one floaty, I think he's still staying, above water.
Right. And again, I'll let this analogy die, but like for the investment in him, the 28th pick, which is always kind of a crapshoot, to get what you're getting now, that's a $3 ticket that you're already making $100K on. Like that, you have 4 or 5 numbers here, but for him, you don't really see teams like scout super hard right during the regular season. There's so many games, but I was thinking like in a playoff series, you're going to see really smart teams scout by like having the defender on him, whether he's off ball, just one step further away from him, because not only like, hey, shoot it, make that shot, but also that gives you one more step of like, if he does catch and try to go, I have one other foot or
they're
two.
They're going to close short. I mean,
yeah,
that's simple. Like on the, the scouting reports, right? Like where it's like, is it a flush shooter? Is it a,
right?
They're going to leave him somewhat open, not even because they don't believe in the shot, but because they're scared of the first step. I think that's where him and Rob both both have crazy first steps for young players. So if like guys aren't going to be flying out at them, and they're going to need to quickly and effectively take threes, but they're going to be like kind of open threes. They're going to be like Jalen Clark threes last season. Mm-hmm. And if you're confident and consistent and effective and you're like mechanics, like you can take and make those shots at a 40% clip. I think it's exciting that it can work even if those shots aren't going in. But you're right. It is the variable. I'm detracting too much from the shooting thing. That is the variable with TJ. I just don't think it'll kill him from his rotation spot if it's not there. Yeah.
He does so many things so well for like a bench player. Again, he's a bench player because his team has a lot of talent, but if he doesn't, he shot 35.5% on one attempt last year from 3. I think the number that I would bank on going up is the attempts. Like I think he's going to have more opportunities with starters to finish a Julius Randle post up that he kicks out. He can already be super beneficial to this team and be one of the new 8-9 starters. But if he would consistently hit those threes, to me, it's like, talking to people last week, like there's people in this organization that think he can score 17 points a game. And I think for that, it's like he's going to have to hit threes to do that. And if he does, then this whole rotation that we just talked about, like I know we talked about the starters with Rob. It's like, well, we got to find a way to literally force TJ into whatever that is, because he's going to be unstoppable. But he looked great. And again, I actually thought watching, not body language in a bad way, he's just like, I've graduated from this. Like, put me in the real minutes, put me in with the real guys. And that's got to be huge for Finch and how he's trying to build out this rotation for the regular season.
Today's show is brought to you by Your Home Improvement Company. And we know there are a faction of you out there who have a home improvement project that you need to get done this fall before it gets cold and it's winter. Maybe you got some drafty windows. Buy 2 windows, get 2 windows free through Your Home Improvement Company. A bathroom renovation, simple tub to shower conversion is 30% off, but a full-on bathroom renovation is 30% off as well. Any home improvement project, we would love it if you contacted Your Home Improvement Company. They offer great financing deals that require 0 money down, 0 interest, and 0 payments until 2026. You can contact Your Home Improvement Company by calling 866-777-YHIC or simply by going to yourhomeimprovementco.com. Your Home Improvement Company, where it's your home made better. Today's show is also brought to you by Adriana Lonick at Coldwell Banker Realty. And if it is time to buy or sell your home, please do reach out to Adriana Lonick at Coldwell Banker Realty to help you with the process. All you need to do is go to thedancingrealtor.com, or you can call or text her at 715-304-9920. The perk we offer with this is these free consultations with Adriana enter you to win some Wolves tickets. So if you're even considering this, it is free to get a consultation to get yourself on the right track on the home buying or selling process. All you have to do is, again, thedancingrealtor.com or 715-304-9920. If you have a need, if this is you, go to thedancingrealtor.com for more information. And like I said, mention this podcast and get entered to win a pair of free Timberwolves tickets when you book that consultation. Yeah, no, that's well put. Let's do Beringer. I thought he was intriguing. No, I mean, he was intriguing in the game offensively. It was, you saw all the things people have been hearing us say, or we've been hearing the front office and coaching staff say. He's going to catch it around the basket. He's going to be quick to get there, and he's going to be able to dunk it or lay it into the basket. And when you compare that in your mind to Rudy Gobert offensive possessions in the similar spot, it looks drastically cleaner. It's faster, better hands, can like a bigger catch radius where he catches it. And I think that's absolutely something for people to be excited about. Clearly, internally, they're excited about it. I wasn't at the game in San Diego, but Finch did some media before the game, and he was asked about Joan Beringer, and he referred to him as fearless. And I've been coaching Finch for 5 years, or I've not been coaching Finch. I've been covering Coach Finch. Sorry, for 5 years now. And I know that is his favorite compliment word. He uses it oftentimes when talking about other players that he likes. Like, you know how this works. Pre-game media before, and some visiting team media will come in and like ask about
Joan Beringer.
Yeah, right. No, but like I'm saying with other, I remember him referring to Josh Giddey as fearless. I remember him referring as Kobe White as fearless, like early in their careers. And then I remember him being asked about plenty of other players over the course of time that he doesn't use that term. Finch thinks Beringer is fearless, and I would just highlight that is high praise from Chris Finch. So exciting offensively. I think we see the fearlessness too, the awareness and those sort of things. And then he on defense just got put in the basket by Jonas Valanciunas and Nikola Jokic because he's 18 years old, and those guys are monster men in post-up situations that Joan Beringer is not going to be able to guard as a rookie or probably anytime soon. But I think I tweeted during the game, as I started people being like, "Oh, he's getting cooked by Valanciunas." I'm like, really? No way. That's what he does. Like turn on any Valanciunas game from the last 10 years playing in a terrible team. He puts skinny guys in the basket, and Beringer will not be able to do that. He's not going to be able to guard Alperen Şengün in a game. He's not going to be able to guard sub in and guard Joel Embiid in the game. He's obviously not going to be able to guard Jokic. That's okay. How many other guys are there in the NBA right now that are real post-up problems for him to guard. It's not a long list. Honestly, Denver has like 2 of the 5 of them. So I'm not freaking out about Beringer getting a little steamrolled on the inside, because when I saw him in pick and roll coverage, he looked fast. He looked like he had the ability to contest the basket. At everything we thought he would be able to do. But it was just a reminder of he's not going to be able to guard guys in post-up situations as an 18-year-old rookie. And that'll probably rule him out of the rotation for some games. But like I said, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I need to think about this more. Denver could do that. Philly can do that with Embiid. Houston with Şengün. Who am I? Maybe New York with Cat. I don't know. I mean, there's just not that many teams that would hunt that. You know what I'm saying? It's just there isn't that much in the NBA right now. So whatever. That's my thoughts on Joan Beringer.
And he could also, using that concept, go get you 16 and 11 against the Hornets, right? Like I think to your point, what you're saying is like, don't be focused on the fact that he absolutely got cooked by Valanciunas. And a lot of it was like on rip through moves, which to me, like the strength was apparent. On the call, they even said, like, it's listed here that Beringer is 230. Well, Valanciunas, who they nicknamed the Bear, is 270. Like, the strength was one thing, but to me, it was also just Jonas Valanciunas has played basketball his whole life, and he's like in his 30s. He just got him on a lot of things where it's like, oh, Beringer just started playing basketball 1 presidential term ago. Like, that was the point for me. But I kind of, when you said his name, felt bad because, as Alan Horton called it, that was just like a welcome to the NBA moment. Because Beringer is fearless, and all the stuff that we've heard during training camp so far, he kind of showed last night. He finishes with 14, 4, a block, also 5 fouls, like the good and the bad. He had that possession I talked about where it reminded me again of that draft clip where I think he got a block in the draft clip. His team got the rebound, and he sprinted down like a French gazelle, and he got an easy dunk. That happened on Saturday with Rob Fondam with that little just cutting pass.
He's got that 100%. He's got that.
And that's like Rudy, maybe younger Rudy, whatever. That's not really Rudy's game now, even though he does kind of rim run. But for Beringer, he's just more athletic right now. Like, he can just get out and transition. The one kind of, again, Michael Jordan Space Jam finished layup he had, that's another little aspect that we don't really see. But I also thought he battled defensively. And then when he got rebounds, sometimes, Rudy will get a rebound. He'll bring the ball down, which is like 101 for big guys. Like, don't do that. And then he'll look to maybe kind of put it back. I thought Beringer would get the rebound and immediately be like, okay, who do I kick it out to kind of get a better possession? So he just, I thought he did everything that we had heard about, to the point where, again, yes, he got cooked by 2 of the most physical, more talented centers in the league. But there's a lot of nights where there's just not a good center opposing Beringer or even Gobert. So I came away from this one thinking, okay, I want him to spend a lot of time in Des Moines, but is he like, are there going to be nights where he actually gets real minutes in one of those concepts you talked about against the Hornets, against the Bulls, against teams that don't really have bigs? Because for me, it wasn't a bad thing, but it was like another red shirt idea of how do you fit that into this unless there's some injuries going on? And that's going to be really difficult because he showed you last night, and maybe you'll see this in the next preseason game. He's worthy of playing NBA minutes right now and kind of learning on the fly. But I don't know if he's worthy of playing NBA minutes on this specific roster, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
What team do you remember Luka Garza playing the most against over the last couple of years? Is there a team that comes to mind?
No, but they played Denver.
I think it's Denver.
Much. Okay,
Denver.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
I do. So my guess, again, I don't know anything. Nobody's told me anything about Beringer is going to play. Obviously, they're all gassing him up every single time they talk. We love him. All this sort of stuff, but nobody has painted out the picture of how this 18-year-old kid that they love is going to be able to get into the rotation. So my just basic dot connection from last year is like, all right, well, Luka Garza played in like 8 to 10 non-garbage time games last season. Normally when somebody was injured and they would actually lean into him more on a team where it was a burly body kind of 5 that they had to guard, at least off of the top of my head. I guess I could go look this up, but for sure the Denver thing. And you were kind of like, okay, like Luka's out there. He's at least being big. He's not getting spread out on the perimeter and cooked. Like he had to do that one time against Chicago. when they took Vucevic off the floor and they went 5 out, and Garza got absolutely cooked in that game because he doesn't have lateral quickness, but he does have the interior strength. So I think of Beringer as the like inside out pocket of Luka Garza, where you are looking and willing to play him in situations where the opponent is going to try and spread you 5 out. You're maybe willing to switch 5 and do all of those things, but it's not an opponent that is going to just try to deliver straight post ups to him on the interior, right? And I think there's probably more of those teams that Beringer can play against than there were the teams that they felt playing Garza against. So if you're hearing me say, what, like, oh, only 8 games of non-garbage time for Beringer, Dane, like that's lame. That's actually not what I'm saying. I'm saying I think there are more teams out there that if a sliver in the rotation was opened up, that Finch would feel comfortable plugging him in. Because you know what? They wanted to play Garza too, man. Finch said that Garza was one of his favorite players he's ever coached in the history of his career. They wanted to make Luka Garza happen. There was just like 25 teams in the league they didn't feel comfortable playing him against. And I think those 25 teams are pretty much the same now, and Beringer is going to be better against going against them. I just think it's ironic that the first game is against Denver, which at the moment I would say is the absolute worst team to play Joan Beringer against.
Last little nugget for anyone that does feel sick on Monday and want to go rewatch a preseason game. Every time he gets scored on, he has the worst body language in the world. Like it's like to a cute way where it's just like he would get scored on and he would just put his head down and be like, oh, and you kind of felt for him again. That's the whole welcome to the NBA moment. But yeah, that was a good first test for him, right? Because I didn't want to see him against the preseason against whoever the Pacers throw out without any bigs. Like, okay, this is at the highest level when we do need you down the road. Like, this is kind of what you got to go against. And I thought he got kind of punched in the mouth early, literally, and then recovered to show offensively he's got a lot of game, and then defensively he can hold his own, and then just the transition stuff, or I think he will continue to build. I just don't know how they're going to stack, to Finch's point, during the season, because there's so few minutes at the 4 and 5 when you think about how much Julius and Rudy will play, plus Naz and Jaden.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the Pacers. So the next 2 games are Pacers on Tuesday and then Knicks on Thursday or something like that, right? So I would say if you're trying to, as a viewer, you're trying to like watch Beringer and get an idea for it, like watch him play defense and contextualize it upon who he's guarding, right? Jay Huff is going to, that's probably who will play for the Pacers. And he's like a perimeter 3-point shooting big who's looking to like take threes if you give him space or pump and drive past him. Like that's very different than Jonas Valanciunas, right? So grade in your head what Beringer can do against that type of player. And then you got Cat on Thursday. Yeah. And Cat is kind of like Valanciunas and Jay Huff put together. Like he's looking to get the 3 and pump and drive you, but he's also trying to get it in the post there too. Like this is just what it is for Rob and all of the small guys. Like this is what coaching staffs are doing, is lining up in what contexts do we feel most comfortable playing this player, and in what context are we least comfortable playing this player. And with rookies, second-year players, I would even extend that out to like Jalen Clark, obviously Dillingham and Shannon and those guys too. Like that stuff to a team. That's what's important about preseason. And I think it's fun, a fun thing for us to track too.
I don't think we should do an hour on one preseason game, but do you want to go rapid fire? Because I had 3 other just random things. Or do you have a big one?
Give me one more. I'm pretty much. Is yours going to be Rocco?
No, it's not. We'll talk about Rocco. You can talk about Rocco. No, I do want to hit these 3 quick because the Nuggets showed you. I think when they started with Cam Johnson, right, who they acquire via the MPJ trade, and the first or second possession, I think he misses a rotation. Cam Johnson, not a big deal. Then they subbed Tim Hardaway Jr. in early in the second quarter, and his first touch, I think, is like a post pass to Jokic, turnover. They're just trying to figure it out, right? But on the other end, you saw the C word that we've talked about now for a month. You saw continuity in the game. Like you just saw everything from Minnesota, and the Denver broadcast kept bringing this up. The athleticism aside for how the rosters are built is different, but just everything Minnesota did was a half step quicker, a half step more efficient, more effective. I think that was kind of cool to see, because as Denver's trying to, a veteran team, putting all these new Lego pieces together, Minnesota's pretty much all put together. And I thought that was noticeable. And then the other 2 random things, you and Jace can bring this up, but you guys always named certain lineups. Big fan of the solo parent lineup, which is Joe Ingles and the 4 young guys. It was Joe Ingles, Rob, Jalen, TJ, and Johan Beringer. The solo parent, the solo dad. That was awesome because they were all flying around, and Joe was like constantly kind of being like, all right, guys, you got to get over there and stuff. And then last but not least, I don't know what his contract is, and maybe you can remind me. He's not going to be a part of this, but like Jugang assemble, like stand up. He was awesome. Johnny Juzang, he's only 24 years old, out of UCLA. I thought he looked, not only was he just like scoring the ball, but I think he had 6 rebounds, like second on the team behind Beringer or behind Rocco. He just looked like an NBA player. And again, as you're watching Denver, and maybe you'll see this more in Indiana or New York, like some of these teams, when they get down the bench, it's kind of tough. And Johnny Juzang, look at the guy who's like, why is he not on another team kind of in their fringe rotation? Because if Johnny Juzang ever gets a minute this season, that's probably bad, but also like he's the 17th guy, I think. And he looked really, really polished for a 24-year-old.
Yeah, it's a training camp contract for him.
Okay.
So, that could be converted into like a minimum contract or a partially guaranteed contract like Bones Hyland is on. Last season, they left that 15th roster spot open so as to, give themselves more flexibility, pay less second apron, luxury tax, all that. I've kind of been operating under the assumption that they're going to leave that spot open, and that if Johnny Juzang or any of those Alize Johnson and a couple other guys who played there, if they are part of the Timberwolves, it will be in Iowa,
Okay. Yeah.
But like Juzang would be the most likely out of the group of them to make it, or maybe get a 2-way contract, and one of the 2-way guys gets upgraded to something else. He's just played. He played a lot for Utah over the past couple of years. I wrote down Juzang as a reminder, you got to be more than just a shooter, though.
Yeah,
like,
no,
I don't,
for sure.
It's, you know what I always say? My thing is, for a minimum contract player, show me one skill set, high-level skill set, and that's enough to deserve a minimum contract. And he might have that as a shooter, but I'm not sure he has much else going on other than that. But for a non-guaranteed training camp contract, whatever, that's cool. Clearly he was a little bit higher in the pecking order. Like, he played in the second quarter, right? Like, he played in the first half of the game. I think
he led the team in shot attempts by a mile. I don't know if anyone else on the team took double-digit shot attempts, and Johnny Juzang was like 30. And again, I wanted to bring that point up last because that confirms to you, my boss, that like I did watch the second half as well. This wasn't just I didn't just turn it off after 12 minutes, but I mean, again, I put in my notes, he kind of reminded me of Dollar Store Cam Johnson. Like, he's clearly an NBA guy. He, to your point, does need to do something else. 6 rebounds in a up and down preseason game probably isn't super bankable, but I think
he's apparently, metrics say, is atrocious at defense too. I mean, I don't know, but he's like first percentile in Utah. So.
And just to close it on my end, like, I know I joked about this at the top, but that was, unless you listen to it on the radio with Alan Horton, like, you watch the Denver feed. And I thought that was also like interesting because they know a lot of those guys. They know Tim, like they referenced the Bones Hyland stuff, but Denver, when they got deep in their bench in that third and fourth quarter, like, it's a lot of guys that it's very evident the gap in talent. It's like, oh, these guys probably aren't going to be relied upon. And I just think, I don't know where this thing turns out and if this organization ever cracks that ceiling we've talked about, but man, like, time after time, they just kept subbing in guys. It's like, oh, okay, he's an NBA player. He's an NBA player. And if you've been doing this long enough, that should never get old, because it's like, you remember watching third quarter preseason games 4 years ago? It was like checking in Dane Moore. It's like, oh my God, that sucks. Like, this, they got real dudes 1 through 22 now. And maybe Johnny Juzang's not part of the actual roster come October 22nd, but it's just, Tim Conley just continues to try to find guys to make this a competition and find skill sets that this team kind of complement, right? Because what their starting 5 is going to be, what their 9-8-man rotation is going to be. But if you can have a Johnny Juzang who you can call upon to just let it rip, that's probably a good thing.
Okay, you don't have any Enrique Freeman thoughts?
I'm not sure if I know who he is, but I might have turned the game off by that point. But no, you'll talk about it more later this week. But Rocco Zikarsky also looked like an NBA player, and that's not what I thought when they drafted him. I just sometimes you do go get those really tall guys that don't have a lot of polish, a lot of game, and it was
he's
clear,
fiery, right? Like competitive, like yeah, I like that.
That 14 feet of big guys or 14 feet of Euros, like that's a real thing. Like they clearly addressed what they thought was a need of like, we want to constantly, no matter what the timelines look like, Rudy Gobert, whatever, like we want to constantly have young, tall, athletic, multifaceted centers on this team for whatever the next iteration of all this looks like. So he played really well too. Again, one preseason game. It'll be interesting to see who even plays in the next one. But I think for one night without Ant, without Julius, without Mike, Finch and that coaching staff should be pretty happy with what they saw.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I thought Zikarsky was interesting too. I think he's got some of that TJ Shannon and Jalen Clark, like, hey, just do this stuff, from Finch, and understands that, like, whereas a lot of 7'3" guys, they do end up thinking they can do more. It's normally, it takes like those 7+ guys a couple of years to realize, actually, we just need you to do this one role. And if you do, like, you can be Alex Len. You'll be here for like 10 years, and I think Zikarsky is super young too. I don't know, I was just watching at the end of practice and the last week, and he just was like feisty, man. Just like really, really whatever. What does that mean? But it's just like a 7'3" kid, clearly hasn't fully come into his body, but has like a confidence and like a little dog to him. So I was like, obviously I didn't say that after I saw it in practice the other day, because it's like, okay, Dane, like whatever. But then, when I was watching Zikarsky like play, he was like probably one of the best guys. Popped a little bit for preseason guys like that. I thought back to practice, and I'm like, yeah, like I think he's a serious person,
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, that's not always the case, right? Of your players, just their first couple of years when they kind of feel that they can be all of these different things. I had that. I'll have Zikarsky over Juzang in my power
Okay,
rankings.
that's fair.
But
And the Alex
fun,
Len one's a good
Yeah,
comp. No, the Alex Len thing's a good comp because, the privilege that Rocco Zikarsky has is that he's just a giant human being. And in a league that has shifted from, 5 out to now that's kind of leaning back into size matters and playing multiple bigs. That's, again, I feel so bad for the Hornets, but I shit on them all the time. Like Rocco Zikarsky would probably be their starting center because they don't really have, or like the kid from Creighton too. But if he can just, but we started this thing saying Bones Hyland is a nice third emergency point guard. Rocco Zikarsky is a nice third emergency 7-footer to have behind Rudy and Beringer. So will he play this season? Probably not. Will he be awesome in Iowa? Probably. But another good showing from him and that Australian man. Like those guys they're a little feisty. Like they just kind of like let you know they're there. So between him and Joe, I think they got good guys.
And as I always say, like once you're up at this level of really high salary stuff, your future moves are often so much about internally developing somebody. You got him on a 2-way contract. You can turn it into a restricted free agent contract. Like the dream for Rocco Zikarsky is Jalen Clark, right? The same thing that happened. Okay, you impressed us. We'll rip up your 2-way contract. Here is a guaranteed minimum contract, and we'll add on a year after that. Like that's the progression, and that stuff is really important from a team building standpoint. So yeah, maybe Juzang too, maybe Freeman, all those things. But like for this team, big picture, like some of these guys do need to hit, because as we talk about limited assets 2, 3, 4 years down the road, they are limited, and ideally one of these guys like Rocco is playing in a couple of years. Is that the expected value of like the 46th overall pick? No, but it's always encouraging if you can kind of be like, hey, maybe we have a roster player here at some point. I thought about that with Rocco too. All right, we did 60 minutes on a Wolves preseason game. This is fun. It's just a way to talk about these players, right? It gives us like a fresh new thought, much like Media Day does with when they start giving us quotes and stuff like that. So I enjoyed watching the game. I enjoyed chopping it up here, and we'll keep doing that as the week moves on. I think you and I will do it after the Knicks game on Friday morning. We'll we'll circle back and I guess the Wolves will have played 3 preseason games by then. But yeah, appreciate you doing it.
Appreciate you. Yeah. Next up, October 7th, Wolves Pacers. So there'll be another kind of, like you said, preseason's meaningless, but you can also kind of get some little clues of what things could look like. And I think your point about maybe that starting 5 might be what you kind of see to roll out in the second quarter, I thought was really smart. So you get little tea leaves, but big picture, I think there's still a lot of questions to kind of be answered this preseason. And we'll see tomorrow if Ant and Julius suit up alongside Mike Conley.
And what's going to happen for a pod off of that game is it is a game at Target Center. So Chris Hyland and I are actually going to come back here to the studio and record right after that game. It's something Chris and I are going to try to do periodically throughout the season, honestly, mostly so we don't have to wake up early in the morning and do a pod afterwards, but we're gonna test that out. So that'll be the next episode. Me and Chris Hyland from the Star Tribune will talk about the Wolves preseason home opener. Until then, he's Kyle, I'm Dane. Peace out.
How I'm feeling, man, I hope it never stop, yeah. Green and hard so you can find me in the crowd, yeah, yeah. Don't let standards ever bring you down, yeah. Hope you dancing.